Welcome into Clippers Talk.
I'm so lonely. Please help me.
Nope, that's not what I was looking for there. Appreciate you guys. I'm Adam Osland. We got a good show for you today. We will be previewing tomorrow night's game in Memphis, the Clippers' last game before Christmas, and they're taking on the Grizzlies, who have been one of the best basketball teams in the world over the last 2 or 3 weeks now. So, chat, get in here. Let me know I'm coming through. Let me know you can hear. Let me know you can see my new Clippers beanie. I got the Clips with the light blue beanie going. It is one of my favorites. Had to make sure to get this one. It's going to keep me warm. It is snug on the top of the head right now because it's brand spanking new. So, as I was going over some of, I don't know, what happened last night, and I was obviously miffed. I was frustrated. I was vexed with some of the Clippers' play last night in what I thought was a winnable game against the Dallas Mavericks because while Kyrie played, he didn't play great. He didn't shoot the basketball well. I think he ended up 6 of 25. I thought it was a game they could have had. Therefore, they could have had a winning road trip right off the bat. They could have swept Dallas. It's difficult. You're playing teams back-to-back nights. It's not easy, not back-to-back nights, but in back-to-back games, you're playing the same team. You're seeing the same team out there. And the Dallas Mavericks are good, and their defense was, I think, really solid in that ball game last night. I want you to hear from Norman Powell post-game in the locker room afterwards, after the Clippers lost 113-97.
What was it felt like it was a very physical game on both ends.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask you like to see that, but like, how did you feel like y'all adjusted to everything that?
I thought we made some adjustments. I mean, we gave ourselves a chance there at the end. I think really just untimely turnovers. And we missed a lot of open shots. We got generated some good looks. And they just didn't go in tonight. But credit to them. They got Kyrie back. They had a little bit more swag, a little more options offensively, especially with him on the floor. So, they did a great job bouncing back. It's always tough to beat a team back-to-back games like that. They're going to make adjustments. We had to make adjustments. I thought we did a great job defensively, but the turnovers really hurt us.
How do you kind of keep your composure in a game like that, man? Like, because obviously it wasn't just about like, oh, the referees are hearing that all game. So it's not even about the official. Like, you got to collect yourself and be able to make shots, make the right decisions, stay poised. How do you do that for yourself, and how do you do that for your teammates?
I just keep trying to be in the moment. Talk to the refs. Try not to get too mad. I'm doing a great job with not trying to get a tech. But just having open communication with them, applauding them when they do call a good foul and they coming to them and talking to them, when you think they didn't see something or they missed something. But always just thinking next play. That's one thing that we've harped on at the beginning of training camp. Not having disappointment. I'm not getting too excited when something does go our way or being disappointed and stopping. If we miss a shot, miss a foul call, whatever it is, getting back to the next play. Done a great job, but it's tough when things happen for a full course of the games and they're not making adjustments. But just got to keep having a mental toughness.
I like the mentality there. I like the mindset by Norman Powell. Clippers were a little bit frustrated out there, as were the Dallas Mavericks. Both teams ended up with 22 free throws, but it was a very physical game at times with some of the stuff they were letting them get away with. I don't think that had any bearing on the outcome. I think the Clippers lost this game because they went 10 of 37 from the outside, and it was worse than that throughout most of it. They went 4 of 6 in the fourth quarter, which made things look a little bit better from three. When through three quarters, they were shooting under 30% from distance. Is this Clippers talk? I'm Adam Osland. Yes, we're going to preview the Clippers taking on Ja Morant, maybe, and the Memphis Grizzlies, definitely, tomorrow in Memphis. But I want to get to some leftovers here with the Clippers and what happened last night in their 16-point loss to the Dallas Mavericks. That had me, I don't know, a little upset. I just, I look. You got to get as many victories as you can right now, and if you can pad your record up a little bit more before Kawhi Leonard comes back, that's even better. And I just saw a game where Kyrie Irving was 6 of 25 and only had 15 points in his return and wasn't shooting it well. And Chris Dunn was absolutely clamping him. And so to me, that's a very winnable game. Now you can make the argument that because Kyrie and his gravity was out there, well, it got everybody else going for the Dallas Mavericks. Other guys got really good looks out there. And you see they ended up with what, 8 guys in double figures total. And Quentin Grimes and what he did in that fourth quarter, without that performance where he had 14 points in the fourth alone, maybe the Clippers do climb back into this one and find a way to win. And he was special in the final period, and there's not a lot you can do about some of that hot shooting from him. But I mentioned last night how I would have liked to see Big Zoo get more shot attempts up, especially in the third quarter. He goes on a 7-0 run. I was watching some of the tape last night just to see if my eyes deceived me. And there were times, Carlo Jimenez brought it up, that he was being doubled, that their defense was slanted or tilted towards Ivica Zubac after what he did to him on Thursday night, where he really dominated them. I think, what did he end up with, 21 points? And he's been good against Dallas. He was going to draw more attention his way. That's understandable. But one of the first possessions after he was detonating at the rim with 2 putbacks and then a huge dunk off a nice feed from Norman Powell underneath. One of the first possessions is the Clippers get out in transition. Zoo runs down the middle of the floor hard, beats his man down the floor, and nobody even looks for him. Instead, it was a Derrick Jones Jr. three-pointer in the far side corner. That type of stuff frustrated me. They just weren't even trying to get him the basketball, even though he was playing that well over the span of a couple minutes where he was helping them get right back into the game. Now, you can make the argument that the Clippers lost this game really in the second quarter when they got outscored 31-18 by 13 points. And the last 8 minutes of the second quarter, a lot of those minutes with the starters out there for the Clippers, last 8 minutes, they had 8 points. They had just a couple of field goals made during that time. The offense completely stalled out. They battled back. They won the third quarter 26-20. They had opportunities in the fourth quarter, but Dallas put up a 39 spot. And again, Quentin Grimes, if you slow down Kyrie Irving, but somebody else ends up going 7 of 8 from the field and 3 of 4 from distance and has 14 of his 20 points in the fourth quarter alone, you're probably going to lose that game when you're already in an uphill battle. I just want to see Ivica Zubac get the basketball a little bit more and the opposition get the basketball a little bit less when it comes to turnovers by the Clippers. And really, who are we kidding? This is mostly about James Harden right now. I've loved what James Harden has brought to this Clippers team. I was always a James Harden guy when there was a debate between him and Russell Westbrook and who should be starting. I thought there was no debate. I thought it was pretty clear. James Harden is the floor raiser you need and somebody that's much less erratic with the basketball. But lately, even though he's had a stellar season for the Clippers and they're nowhere near 16-13 without him, I have heaped a ton of praise on James Harden for how good he has been. I've talked about him being an MVP. That doesn't mean he's above criticism when he's not playing well. You look at 3 of the 4 games since he returned after missing 8 days when the Clippers had all that time off, and the only game he missed during that period was against Houston. The timing, the rhythm hasn't been there. Because the first game back against the Denver Nuggets, he ended up having, the most turnovers he had this season with 9. Outside of that, the Clippers had 10. That's still not great, but he had 9 of their 19 turnovers. That just can't happen. You're not going to win a ball game, and they didn't. They lost that one by 22 when James Harden has that many turnovers. Then against Utah, he's outstanding. 41 points, goes off, second 40-point game of the season. Absolutely nothing to criticize there, and they win 144-107. But in both games against Dallas, game 1 on Thursday, the Clippers end up with a total of 13 turnovers. He almost has half of them with 6. 6 turnovers. 7 assists to 6 turnovers. They won the game still. They shot it well. They shut down Dallas. They held them under 40% from the field. But there are some warning signs going on right now. And he had 24 points on 6 of 14 shooting, got to the free throw line over and over again and hit all 10 and did great things in that game. But 6 turnovers just makes you raise an eyebrow. And then last night against Dallas, as a team, the Clippers ended up with 17 turnovers. He had 7 of them. 2 or 3, okay. 7? He had more turnovers than made shots. He was 6 of 18 from the field with 7 turnovers. And some were just baffling. Some were the fault of being overly aggressive. You can kind of live with that stuff. But Kyrie Irving, I talk about his poor shooting, 6 of 25 from the field, but his defense was great. He did a very good job of slowing down James Harden. And the Clippers were slow to get into their offense because of it. So it's just something I'm tracking right now. I don't want to see him go back to a place where he was early in the season. And we saw it in the preseason, but the first 5 games of the season, he averaged 6 turnovers per game. James Harden. 8 turnovers in game 1, 7 in game 2, 5, then 6. Then he started getting a handle on the basketball. The month of November, 4 turnovers, basically 3.8 per game. It's still not a great number, but it seemed like it was getting better. And before the hiatus, he was right around 4 turnovers per game. Since then, in the 4 games, after he missed 8 days and missed that game against Houston, James Harden, the last 4 games, is averaging 6.5 turnovers per game. The Clippers, during that stretch, miraculously are 2-2. One of those games was against Utah. One of those games was against Dallas without Kyrie and Luka. And Harden had a good game. And the 2 games they won, he was good, despite the turnovers. He did enough to offset them offensively. But against the better teams in the league, like the Memphis Grizzlies, who we're about to talk about, we don't know if John Morant's going to be available. You got to take care of the basketball. That's his job. So for people who think that, I'm a James Harden stan or something like that, and he's above criticism, because I have made the argument earlier in the season that, he's 35, so much is being asked of him, so much is on his plate. And I do think that contributes to these turnovers to some degree. The high usage rating, still no Kawhi Leonard. I think that's a fair argument. But I think it's also fair to point out at the same time that some of these turnovers are just mental errors, mental lapses, miscues, unforced errors, self-inflicted wounds, and unserious basketball. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be as objective and unbiased as possible. And that's the way I see it right now. Mark Jag is saying rest Harden versus Memphis. I think that's the solution. He's got a day off in between. Here's the thing, guys, he just had 8 days off. That's why I'm saying rest. He just had 8 days off. What are you talking about? He should be more fresh out there. He looked like that against the Jazz. His three-point shot has been falling much more as of late. He's been shooting over 40% the last 15 games or so from three. That tells you about your legs, typically. Yes, that's my point, Cap. He isn't above criticism. Some people were trying to tell me I was acting like he was. No. When it was fair to defend him, I did. When it's fair to criticize him, I'm doing that now. Like, rest? What are you talking about, Mark? He just did. He just had 8 days off. If anything, maybe he had too much rest. If the turnovers are any signal or sign of that, because it seems like he's back to trying to catch a rhythm like he was earlier in the season, like I pointed out. He was having turnovers in bunches to start off the year. I don't think rest is the solution. I think getting back in the flow, getting your timing back, getting your rhythm out there is what he needs. So, I mean, he got the rest. That's well established. Now, Coach Lou did say he thought he looked like he was a little bit slower, a little bit tired out there last night. But 8 days off is 8 days off. What are we talking about? They need James Harden to have a chance in that game. Yes, I'm aware Memphis likes to run. That doesn't mean you just sit James Harden against teams who play up tempo now. You think that's the solution? You think that's going to help them win the game or have a chance in that game? No. It's going to be a tough game regardless. You need your best player this season. And you hope that he has a much better performance. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But you can't go into that game without your best player on the season. You're trying to win. They got rest after that. They got 3 days off till Friday. So I'm not hearing that James Harden needs more rest after just getting 8 days. And now he looks rusty. The rest turned to rust. I think the solution is be a little bit more mindful of taking care of the basketball. He knows this. Coach Lou will tell him that. The turnovers are alarming. Last 4 games, 6.5 turnovers per game. All right. Maybe the other solution is getting a more seasoned backup point guard, as Chunk is in here asking about Dennis Schroeder and the Golden State pickup there. The price for him didn't seem to be as high as most people would have thought. I don't see the point of talking about how he would have been a great pickup for the Clippers when he's now in Golden State, so you can't turn back time. Colin Sexton's name has been out there. I'll talk more about that later this week. I'm also going to give out the second keyword for the Kawhi Leonard bobblehead during this show before we get out of here. I'll give out the second keyword. If you missed the first, well, you missed it. That's the point. You have to listen to all the shows. Yeah, Memphis is extremely deep. They're tough. Let's go through some of the numbers here. So the Memphis Grizzlies, they have the 4th best offense in the league. The Clippers, they're 20th in offensive rating. The last 10 games, Memphis is 2nd in offensive rating. The Clippers are 15th. So they've actually been better as of late. Of course, you beat Golden State by 50 plus. That's going to help your offensive rating. Defensively, though, this season, just like on the offensive end, Memphis is 4th. They're the only team in the NBA that is top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating.
Not too bad, I hope. Not too bad, I hope.
They're not too bad at all in either area there. In fact, we may be saying, please help me. Memphis is the only team in the league, top 5 in offense and defense. The Clippers do have the 6th best defense on the season. Memphis is number 1 in pace. The Clippers are 23rd. Yes, running in Memphis. Not walking in Memphis. They're running. Memphis is second in overall rebounding percentage. Clippers are 8th. That's good. They've been a good rebounding team. Everybody's saying, oh, need the power forward, need more bigs out there. They have been a good rebounding team. In fact, the Clippers are the best team when it comes to defensive rebounding percentage. Memphis is only 22nd there. That's good to see. Problem is Memphis is 4th in offensive rebounding percentage. The Clippers are 16th. The Clippers are, on the season at least, a better three-point shooting team. They're 9th at 37.4% from three. They're coming off a game where they were miserable from the outside, though. Memphis, they're 14th at 37% flat. So not a huge difference. And Memphis takes over 3 more threes per game at 37.5 to the Clippers' 34.3 threes taken per contest. Memphis is also second in opponent three-point percentage. Teams are shooting just 33.4% against them, hence them having a top 5 defense. The Clippers, they're good there. They're 5th in opponent three-point percentage. Teams are only shooting 34.2% against them from distance. Memphis is tied for 5th in free throw attempts per game. Clippers have been dealing with this with the Denver Nuggets. Nobody gets to the line more than them, but Memphis is pretty damn good when it comes to getting to the charity stripe. They're at 23.8 attempts at the free throw line per game. Clippers at 21.3. Memphis does struggle defending without fouling, as the Clippers kind of have as of late, but teams shoot the 3rd most free throws against them in the league. Teams put up almost 26 free throws per game against Memphis. That tells you, though, that they are playing a physical, aggressive brand of defense. It leads to some fouls. Clippers, they're giving up 22.2 free throws per game. Memphis also turns it over the 2nd most in the NBA. This is one of their few flaws. They turn it over 16.1 times per game, the Memphis Grizzlies. Part of that is because there's more possessions per game when you go up against a team that plays at that fast of a pace. The Clippers are bottom 10 at 15.2 turnovers per game. They're still bad there. Memphis is just the worst. But again, pace affects that. Memphis is number 1 in the league when it comes to points in the paint. They're scoring almost 60 points in the paint per game at 58.7. The Clippers, they're 12th at 48.7. So Memphis is scoring an entire 10 more points per game in the paint than the Clippers. Clippers, though, they've been a little bit better when it comes to their paint defense. They're 8th in opponent points in the paint per game at 46.1. Memphis, they're giving up 47.3 points per game in the paint. That's 14th. Memphis Grizzlies, 2nd in the league in 2-point percentage at 57.1%. So even though they're 14th in 3-point percentage, they're 2nd in 2-point percentage at just over 57%. The Clippers are 22nd there. Memphis, 4th in fast break points. There's the pace right there, setting in. They're getting almost 18 fast break points per game. The Clippers are 12th at about 16 per game. Not bad. They're better than they were last year. But Memphis, pretty elite there. Both are middle of the pack when it comes to their fast break or transition defense. They're both giving up about 15.5 points per game there. Biggest difference you might notice when you're looking at the Memphis Grizzlies is that Ja Morant does not lead them in scoring anymore. It's Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. He's at 21.4 points per game. Ja's at 21.2. And they are deep. They have 10 players averaging 9 points or more per game. No one averages more than 7 boards per game. Everyone rebounds for them. Aldama, Zach Edey, they lead them in the rebounding average. They're both getting just over 7. But it's not like the Clippers with Big Zoo averaging almost 12 per game. Aldama's having a career year from the outside. He's shooting 38% from 3. He's getting 13 points per game now. Triple J, he's taking 5 threes per game. He's shooting league average at 36%. Rookie Jalen Wells, who was playing, I think, at Washington State last year. He's been great defensively for them, and he's scoring. He's getting 12 points a game, shooting 40% from 3. He is clamping guys. He was on Steph a lot when they beat the Warriors by 50 the other night, and Steph Curry was 0 of 7. Rookie Jalen Wells doing work. Scottie Pippen Jr. for them. He's getting about 10 points per game. Jay Huff, a stretch big, shooting 41% from 3. Jake LaRavia, he's a forward that's shooting 45% from 3. The last 15 games, the Memphis Grizzlies are tied for the best record in the NBA with the Boston Celtics, the OKC Thunder, and the Dallas Mavericks. They're all 12-3, including the Memphis Grizzlies, the last 15 games. Boston, OKC, Mavs, Memphis, all 12-3 the last 15 games. Over that time, I mentioned their three-point shooting is, middle of the pack, 14th in three-point percentage on the season. Not the last 15 games for Memphis. They're shooting just over 39% from 3 while taking 40 per game, so they have been hotter from distance as of late. Now, if Ja's out, what does that do to them? He's got a back injury. Well, they just won in Atlanta, 128-112. Desmond Bane had 23. Scottie Pippen Jr. had 22. Atlanta's not an awful team. They just won on the road without him. With Ja on the court, they have an offensive rating of 117.6. Elite. But without Ja on the court, their offensive rating is still above 115. That's very good. That would be just about top 5 still in the NBA. That's how good they are offensively. Even without Ja, who puts them over the top with their offensive rating, they're still really good offensively. They're one of the best offenses. Defensively, with or without Ja, they have a defensive rating of 106. They're good. They're good there too. With or without him. It's just about the exact same number. What's interesting, though, is I was trying to see, well, who hurts them then? So, offensively, they are 7 points better per 100 possessions when Scottie Pippen Jr. is off the court. They go with him on the court, they're a 111 offensive rating. When Scottie Pippen Jr. is off the court, they're 118. So he actually hurts their offense some. So if they don't have Ja and Scottie Pippen Jr. has to play more, be careful what you wish for. He was good against Atlanta. But overall in the season, their offense takes a dip, pretty significant one, when Scottie Pippen Jr. is on the floor. They're also 8-4 without Ja Morant so far this season. Last season, I think they were one game above. No. Last season, they had a rough year without Ja. They were 25 games below 500. He only played 9 games last season. The year before that, they were like 11-10 without Ja. But the year before that, the 21-22 season, they went 20-5 without Ja Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies. They are more than capable of being able to get by without Ja Morant. So, what do we got here? Bunit says, don't block me, Adam. Just want to throw this out there. Imagine a rotation of Harden, Derrick Jones Jr., Kawhi, Collins, and Zoo. Dunn, Norm, Coffey, Batum, Collins staggered as a backup center. You talking about John Collins? I don't know if they're getting him. Everybody can offer more. What is Adam Hurley on? God's is going to burn us alive in the sun forever, and that's the truth.
Please help me.
He wants me to tell you.
Please help me.
Guy needs help. Or just maybe a timeout. Let's give him a little bit of a correction. Yeah, Tyus Jones did a lot of that work when they had that 20-5 record during the 21-22 season without Ja. Tyus Jones had like his breakout season. But they still have just a ton of depth. Desmond Bane seems to always step up when Ja's out. His points per game go way up. Yeah, last season they had all kinds of guys out. Last season is not necessarily as indicative as the overall lift they have gotten from different guys over the years when Ja Morant's out. Rock said, "Here we go again." With what exactly? What are you talking about? Some of you are bringing up some interesting points outside of Adam Hurley. Mark Jag said, "I like Obi Toppin more than John Collins." Cool. They just signed him to a new contract in Indiana. Why are they trading him? He's having a good year. Do you guys ever think from the other team's perspective? Ever? He's shooting only 36% from three, I guess, but 11 points, 4 boards, and 20 minutes per night. I honestly thought he was shooting better from the outside than that, but he's 26, a leaper. Again, anybody that you put next to Ivica Zubac at the 4 has to be able to shoot. John Collins is having a career year from the outside. All his shooting numbers are way up. But every other team knows this. And the Utah Jazz know they can get more for him. That creates some issues. I haven't liked the activity level from Mo Bamba as of late. He's had a couple good moments. He had that big block in the second half Thursday night, but I thought he really struggled his first stint. Second stint was better, but it's just been really inconsistent what they've been getting performance-wise from Mo Bamba over the last week and a half. We're not doing trade talk. First rule about Clippers talk is no trade talk, at least right now. Oh, here we go. Here we go. The mush. Oh, God.
Please help me.
Bastian Schweinsteiger said, "Statement win tomorrow. Harden goes nuclear. If I'm wrong, you'll never hear from me again." Something tells me he won't stick to that. Something tells me the mush will show up and make some excuse right afterwards. I'll tell you what, you'll at least be getting like a lot of timeouts. Like you'll be on a timeout heater. You will be putting timeout over and over again. The mush. If you weren't aware of him.
Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler. He was also the biggest loser in the whole world.
Now, I'm not saying Bastian Schweinsteiger is the biggest loser in the whole world, but I am saying he's always wrong. He said they'd sweep Dallas. Even though Dallas didn't have Luka Doncic for both games, they still only won one of them, which I'm a little bit perturbed by. He said Boston was overrated. They were going to beat them. They got destroyed. He said the second time against Minnesota, they were going to beat up on them. They got dismantled. Melvin said, once Kawhi Leonard and T-Man return, the Clippers are going to be special defensively. We want Houston in the first round of the playoffs. Sweet revenge. I don't fear Houston in a 7-game series. Bastian Schweinsteiger, the mush.
Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler.
My word is my bond. I give you permission to perma-ban me if I'm wrong. Guys, what do we want to do with Bastian Schweinsteiger here? If he's wrong about tomorrow's game and the Clippers lose instead of getting that statement win, like Bastian Schweinsteiger says they're going to get, what do we do with him?
He was also the biggest loser in the whole world.
What do we do with him? Thank you, Mr. Clipper. I'm quite fond of this beanie. Cap said, fantasy fandom, one-sided trades. Yeah. We got to get John Collins. We got to get Colin Sexton. I know there's a report out there, and I like Colin Sexton a lot. I wouldn't mind John Collins either. But I'm going to make this point, as I have for weeks. Everybody else in the league has more assets to offer in trades than the Clippers do. They can get outbid by pretty much anyone. If Colin Sexton's in, KPJ is probably out. The KPJ roller coaster, I was hoping he'd find more consistency at this point. Even last night when he ended up having 19 off the bench, I still felt like at times he was a net negative out there. And he was a minus 19. No, minus 16. But he led them in the plus minus, or he had the worst minus on the team. I don't go with it typically on a 1-game trial basis, the plus minus rating. It depends who you're out there with. But I haven't seen enough to make me feel comfortable about him in high leverage situations. I haven't. KPJ worries me with his up and down play. What else do we got? Rock said, bro, making this bet against Memphis of all teams on the road is wild. That's what Bastian Schweinsteiger does. He goes for it. And maybe it's because he's the mush.
Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler. He was also the biggest loser in the whole world. They called him Mush because everything he touched turned to mush.
I'm not gonna hear just like KPJ has been fine. Like, by what measurement has he been fine? I want him to be fine. By what measurement has KPJ been fine? Like, I understand he missed an entire season. We're almost 30 games in now. So at what point is that consistency going to start to set in? Because there's a real good chance this is just who he is as a player. Very up and down, inconsistent. The highs are high, the lows are very low. He is, on the season, in 527 minutes, a minus 32. Is that fine? Is it fine? Triple J, who the Clippers will see tomorrow. His mistakes are louder. I've made that point before. But again, over 500 minutes, he's a minus 32 so far. When does that turn around? Stop with the Lonzo Ball stuff. He's played 10 games this year. He can't stay healthy. Stop it. I love Lonzo. I wish he could stay healthy in this league. He was one of my favorite players to watch. Love a passer like that, a connector like that, a role player like that, but we got to stop. Mark Jag said KPJ empty calories. Feels like that sometimes. I don't know how impactful his scoring is. I don't know how many winning plays he makes. Melvin Powell Jr. said, fun fact, the Memphis Grizzlies had Chris Dunn back in the 21-22, but didn't realize what they had and cut him for Sam Merrill. Injury concerns are irrelevant with Lonzo Ball. That's an automatic timeout. The mush is really on one here, guys.
They called him Mush because everything he touched turned to mush.
Injury concerns are irrelevant. For a guy who has barely played basketball the last few years, for a team that has already had so many injury concerns, and you want to bring in Lonzo Ball, they are very much relevant. They are at the front of mind. Are you kidding me? He can't stay healthy. If you think Batum does absolutely nothing, I don't know what to tell you. Like, Batum, he ends up making... Here's the difference. Batum in his 525 minutes is a plus 82 out there. It turns out it's more about just scoring. It's more than just scoring out there with how you can impact a game. It turns out that's kind of a big deal, doing the little things. Batum has played with some really bad lineups. How is he a plus 82 in his 526 minutes? And Kevin Porter Jr. in his 526 is a minus 32. Riddle me that. Do not tell me Nico Batum does absolutely nothing. That is crazy. That is some real casual stuff. Zubats versus Jaren Jackson Jr. Lord help us. Please help me. Hope it's going to be great cinema. I'm interested in it. Alfie said if Kawhi comes back being Kawhi, KPJ continues to be inconsistent, and our best bet is to hope Spurs continue to lose and negotiate a buyout for CP3. That's another guy with injury problems, though. You know? That's another older player. I don't think you can rely on CP3. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Batum is the power forward version of Chris Dunn. Their impact doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. It doesn't. Like anyone that thinks the stat sheet is the end all be all, like Rock here apparently, says winning plays has limitations when you don't do anything or rebounding or playmaking, when you are scared to shoot it, force the other guys to do more. I'm going to say it again. Nico Batum in his 526 minutes is a plus 82 on the season. Kevin Porter Jr. in his 526, just about 527, is a minus 32. Nico Batum has the third best plus minus on the season for the Clippers. I'm not hearing that stuff. I don't know what you're watching if you think Nico, but like you are an absolute box score watcher and have no idea what you're seeing out there if you don't think Nico Batum is a winning player making winning plays. On the other side, I don't know who KPJ is as a player yet. I don't know that. Zach Edey doesn't always start, to my knowledge. They're so deep. They play so many guys. Like, I mean, if you think plus minus isn't indicative of how someone plays when it comes down to 500 minutes during a season, you're hopeless. Like, you're completely lost. Batum is incredible with all the little things he does. And that is the one stat, if you're not watching the traditional box score, that tells you that. They have won the minutes by 82 points in the 526 minutes Nico Batum has played this season. They have won those minutes by 82 points. It's pretty simple to figure out. We'll see what happens tomorrow. It's going to be a difficult game. Harden has to be better, cut down the turnovers, feature Big Zoo, punish them when you can. And Zoo's got to demand the basketball as well. Brian Seaman came on and said that. When he talked to coaches about getting Zoo more involved on the offensive end, it's a two-way street. You got to be able to do both. His teammates have to look for him, and Zoo also has to demand the basketball. But the Clippers need a hot shooting game probably from the outside, which they might be due for after what happened against Dallas last night. 10 of 37 from three, and it wasn't even that good, or it was worse than that. It was worse than that. Rock, the proof is in the pudding. He says, so by that logic, Kevin Porter hustling for rebounds, defending low post, and best players mean nothing. He's not defending the best player majority of the time. Like, what are you talking about? Yes, he's been getting some boards. He's been doing some other things. The numbers are the numbers, my man. He's a minus 32 in 526 minutes this season. That is not a small sample size. He's not doing enough of the little things. Batum has been in a lot of these same lineups with some of the same guys that KPJ is playing next to, and he's winning his minutes. You understand? That's a pretty definitive way to tell how good a guy is playing. Are you winning minutes when that player is on the floor? And over a large enough sample size, it is reliable. It is something to look to. It's pretty rare you see good players in the NBA with some awful plus minus number 500 minutes in. Melvin Powell said KPJ needs Kawhi Leonard to help settle him down on offense. Once he returns, KPJ won't have so much responsibility creating and can focus on facilitating primarily. I agree with that. Maybe you'll get a different KPJ if he's playing more off ball. I don't know what his strength is though right now. I don't. Like, he can create for himself, he can create for others, but it's at a pretty low level. He can do it. Is he great at it? Can he get great at it? I hope he can improve. He needs to. We're 30 games in. You don't understand, Rock. You don't understand. You're a KPJ stan, I guess. Like here are the plus minus for the Clippers. Best plus minus is Chris Dunn. Plus 126 in his 668 minutes. Second is Ivica Zubac, 105. Third, Batum, 82. Fourth, James Harden, 78. Fifth, Norman Powell, 49. All right. Does that not line up with the eyeball test? Then it's Amir Coffey, Derek Jones Jr. The guys at the bottom. Terrence Mann, who's had a bad season, minus 48. Bones Highland, minus 47. KPJ, minus 32. Mo Bamba, minus 31. Jordan Miller's a minus 31. Young player. Does that not match the eye test? I don't know how to help some of y'all. KPJ has been so up and down. But it's been more down than up. If you're losing his minutes, like there's no context to explain it away. I think the coaching staff is trying to get more consistency out of him. I see the vision. It's not irrational. It's not illogical. He is very talented, but can he put it all together and play high IQ winning basketball? That's the question. Consistently. I get what they're going for. We're getting closer to the midway point, so I'm starting to be like, okay, what are we doing here? And now you see a trade, and it's just a rumor for Colin Sexton. I'm just trying to put the pieces together. Yeah, Chris Dunn, when it comes to estimated plus minus defensively, has the best EPM in the league. All right. Your second keyword is for the Kawhi Leonard Christmas bobblehead, AKA. So it's kind of an abbreviation, but AKA is the second keyword. There you go. There's one more to give out, but if you guess what I'm going for before I give it out, I will give you the bobblehead. Put it in the comments section below for this video. I already gave out the first keyword. The second keyword is AKA. If you guess right, I'll give it to you before I give out that third keyword. If you can predict it, I'll give it to you. People think every rebound is like some 50-50 ball out there, and the ball doesn't bounce to guys. Not all rebounds are contested. I think overall KPJ has done some of that little stuff. He has rebounded okay. His defense has been about where I thought it'd be. But you look at last game, I don't know how impactful he was out there. He had 19 points off the bench and was a minus 16. Like, that's hard to do. He had 4 turnovers. It is a lot of boom and bust, feast and famine with KPJ. I hope he gets more consistent. I see the vision. I see what they're going for. We will see how long of an opportunity do they give him. Yeah, Kawhi comes back, things could look differently. But he's been given a pretty long leash so far. He's been able to play through his mistakes. At some point, I'm guessing they're going to tighten some things up and, grade him differently because he's played more games out there. But they don't have a lot of options either. What would I do? When Kawhi's back, I'd have Chris Dunn and Terrence Mann be the primary ball handlers off the bench. Hey, it's a different argument whether or not they're playing KPJ because they have to and whether or not KPJ is playing well, Rock. Those are two different things. I get the logic of they don't have a lot of options. He's the best of the worst options because he can play make some, initiate some. In theory, it's just up and down, up and down. Melvin Powell said KPJ is super sloppy with the ball, great talent, but has too much responsibility offensively at the moment. That's where Kawhi will step in to cover his shortcomings. But then if he's not on the ball, like how much does he help? His catch and shoot numbers were really good from three the last 2 years in Houston. I pointed that out. But is his value the same? Is his ceiling still the same off ball as it would be on ball? Cap says KPJ is a 2 guard. That should be his natural position. Maybe even 2 or 3. No way he should be playing the 1 spot. That's fair. The other guys aren't playing well. The same other guys that when Batum plays next to them, he elevates them. KPJ is, it's not happening. Yeah, Terrence Mann and Chris Dunn, I have more faith in steadier play with ball handling responsibilities from Chris Dunn and Terrence Mann than KPJ. I don't know how you could trust KPJ in a 7-game series right now as a playmaker, as your backup 1. There's a lot of season left. That could change. But those high leverage situations, I don't know about his decision making. I don't know how anyone could argue against that so far. Honestly, like you would have to be a staunch KPJ defender. It's one thing to say, look at his potential, look at what he can do some of the time when he's playing well. I totally understand that. But to act like he's a steady player or some stabilizing force out there and you'd feel good with, I don't know what to tell you. I have concerns. I hope he plays better. I see the talent. I see what he can be. But it has to start showing itself, and he has to start moving in that direction more often than not. The up and down play at some point, it's got to be more highs than lows. A lot more. Yeah, Bones has been the doghouse, it seems like. Outside of that, I don't have any other explanation for why he wouldn't get real opportunity here based upon the play of KPJ. Like, Rock, the amount of things that have gone KPJ's way for him to get this opportunity, the number of factors outside of his control that have helped get him this opportunity, it's not because he's playing so great. It's because Bones ain't going to play. They don't have another guy. Terrence Mann is out right now. Jordan Miller's young. Like, the hyper focus on his play when other guys are greatly underperforming won't change things. I think it's the appropriate amount of focus. It's an important position, a very important one. And yes, he has some Russell Westbrook to his game. I'm not a fan of that style of ball. The erratic roller coaster ride where you have no idea what's going to happen to possession with this player. Like, the criticism is warranted. I criticized James Harden earlier for how he's been playing in the turnover department, even though he's been their MVP. If you don't think I can criticize KPJ with how he has played on the season, I mean, that's on you. Like, you're just making excuses. You're not being objective at all. I said early the season, in the preseason, I was like, you know what? KPJ could be a starter at some point with some of his skill set and what he showed and what I knew him to be in Houston. But it hasn't materialized at all. So I have a take out there that looks bad. I'm not going to keep doubling down and defending it if he's not playing well enough. I think he's doing just enough and has shown just enough flashes for you to stick with him for now because they don't have a better option. It's not because he has played great. It's because they're not going to play Bones, and they pretty much have a void at anyone else being more of a primary ball handler and a guy that can go and get his. Rock said, you said 2 games ago it was a win for KPJ. The team trusted him to give Harden a rest while Dunn was ejected. Huh? I'm not saying he's beyond criticism, but he's not the main issue with this team. Who said he was the main issue? Like, you're just putting words in my mouth. First of all, the first part, it was a win for KPJ. The team trusted him to give Harden a rest while Dunn was ejected. Batum played a bunch of minutes at the end of that game, actually. That was one of the guys that helped them pull through. Like, he's just arguing in bad faith. I never said he was the main issue. But I am saying their biggest need is a steadier backup point guard. Maybe KPJ turns into that, but he's not right now. And if you go into a 7-game series and he's still playing like this, I got questions. So when the Colin Sexton stuff comes up, makes sense to me. It's too important of a position to act like that's not a subject matter we can tackle on here or something. Or we're putting too much of a focus on KPJ. It's like, yeah, the secondary ball handler on your team is pretty important. You can't help some people. I've given Rock way too much airtime. All right, you got the second keyword. Clippers in Memphis tomorrow. We'll be back later tonight with a Clips and Dip episode.